we will be putting this meeting on YouTube for those who couldn't make it so that they can hear it. If for any reason, if you've got something to say that you don't want us to record, we will stop the recording and start it again once you've finished. So you heard earlier from Tony Rees, who's one of our co-chairs and was the founder of this organization. My name is Peter Travis. I'm also one of the co-chairs. We have two other co-chairs who I think will perhaps be joining us later. So welcome to another Somerset-wide version of Zoom meetings. The purpose of this meeting is to give you an update on what's been happening. And quite often what's been happening has been fairly depressing news on the buses front. It's not all good by any means at the moment, but there is a lot of good news and we thought it was well worth sharing. So I will start my screen. Hopefully you can all see a very large update on the top of your screen. That's just to remind you what the theme of this meeting is about. Strangely enough, though he's not necessarily everyone's favorite person, many bus users are still very grateful to Boris Johnson because, having been Mayor of London and known how important buses are to Londoners, when he became Prime Minister, he caused, I think, nearly all the major parties, if not all the major parties, to rethink the importance of buses because he put them at the core of his levelling up strategy and also at the core of his climate emergency strategy. And ever since Boris, and since Boris, we've had a very much more positive approach from all the major political parties towards buses. Buses have become nationally and very much now in Somerset an important political issue taken up by all the political parties. And it all started with this programme Bus Back Better, which was the most exciting transformation of buses in England that any of us had ever seen. £3 billion was allocated. Sadly, in the end, only 1 billion was made available, but it offered the chance to change our bus services, which prompted Tony Rees, who was our founder, to invite people like me and others to join with him to form the Somerset Bus Partnership. And so we've had bus passengers, councillors, transport campaigners, enthusiasts, bus user groups in Somerset, all linking in. Many of the councils have created the role of bus champion, and they've linked in to us. Tony and I are chair and vice chair of Somerset's bus user and stakeholder group. It's an organisation that Somerset Council set up as part of the Bus Back Better programme. And he and I and our colleagues are in fortnightly meetings at least with either Councillor Mike Rigby, the council lead, or his officers, discussing one aspect or another of bus policy. It is a hugely complex and expensive business, but there is now a very regular dialogue with us and with the council. So Somerset Bus Partnership is become the major voice in Somerset on buses for bus users, and that's because so many of you are supporting us. We have 120 councils across the county who have appointed representatives, bus champions, to work with Somerset Bus Partnership. So let's backtrack a bit. Nearly half of all carbon emissions in Somerset come from transport, which is why buses should be an important issue and now are an important issue in Somerset. Looking back over the last 10 years, the reason why that Bus Back Better was such an important initiative for Somerset is that our bus journeys per head in Somerset had fallen by nearly half. We had the worst rated bus service in all of England, the second lowest bus journeys per head. And even as last May, there was a whole series of bus cuts made across Somerset, affecting many of our towns and probably affecting most severely Yeovil. But wherever there was a bus cut, it meant a lot of problems for those people who relied on them, particularly the people in Yeovil. So Somerset County Council, as it then was, came up with, as again part of the Bus Back Better programme, a bus service improvement plan. And given the state of buses in Somerset, they wanted an eye-watering 163 million. Well, because much of that budget had disappeared to supporting buses during COVID, we ended up getting a mere 11.9 million. Now, 11.9 million is still very useful money. And what Somerset, both the Conservative administration under Somerset County Council and now the Liberal Democrat administration under Somerset Council had separately but jointly agreed to do was to focus that 11.9 million so that it made a real demonstrable impact on bus patronage, so that when there was going to be more money, as there needs to be for buses, we could show that Somerset knew how to spend that to great effect. So most of that money has been focused on Taunton and the area immediately around Taunton. And the reason why buses had got into such a dire state in Somerset, in part, was that
the volume of yours.
No, you're going to be because in that microphone.
Yeah.
Thank you. If we could try and mute ourselves. The reason why buses had suffered so much over the last 10 years was that Somerset was spending far less than Cornwall, Wiltshire, Devon or Dorset on supporting its bus services. And without council support, it meant that things like evening buses and weekend buses and buses on less popular routes couldn't be maintained. And before the unitary election last year, the Somerset Bus Partnership put out a bus manifesto. They sent it to every single candidate standing in that election. And in it, we said that the Somerset's bus budget had to come up to at least the average of similar rural local transport authorities. And we said it had to happen through to 2026. It sounds ambitious, but most Conservative candidates, successful candidates, most successful Lib Dem candidates, most successful Green candidates, most successful Labour candidates endorse that bus manifesto. So 66% of elected councillors believe that Somerset needs to spend more money on buses. As this is the budget time for 24-25, as you might imagine, we are reminding them of the commitment they entered into to increase their expenditure on buses. We know that there are a lot of demands on Somerset's budget, huge demands, but buses are a very important priority too. So that's a background. What's happened in 2023? Well, Somerset Council has launched a campaign to promote buses. This is a really significant initiative. They've found that the money to go out and argue for the case of using buses more often. And here's a very good reason. It takes a lot of those cars off the road. This is the Bus It campaign, something which was an initiative jointly between Somerset Council and ourselves, and we very much support it, welcome it, and have helped develop it. And an example of this it's been used to promote the £2 fare. Now, the £2 fare was a bombshell. It came in January the 1st, and it was set to last for 3 months. We were disappointed it was only for 3 months, but the government said at the time that's what they could afford, and I think they were just trialing it. Well, such was a success that they extended it through to July of this year, so the end of this week, but it's already now been further extended to the end of October. So really important initiative. It's a national initiative in England, and applies across Somerset. So it's a £2 fare from January the 1st until October the 31st, and its impact, it's seen a 16% increase in bus travel. That's through to May, and there are every indication that the increase in bus travel is continuing. So it's been a remarkable success. Just shows that if buses are affordable, a lot more people will use them. In November, it is going to increase by 25%. We're disappointed by that, but at £2.50, it's still remarkable value for money. And it's going to stay £2.50 through to November 2024. So it will stay at that level, at least for the lifetime of this government. And it is our belief that once established at this level, any likely future government will keep it at least at this low level, which will ensure the long-term affordability for most people of buses. And of course, senior citizens can travel free of charge after 9:30 in the morning anyway. But in Taunton, where the award which was made to Somerset has been focused, they decided to go a step forward further and introduce a £1 fare. Now, this has had much acclaim nationally. It's just recently won a major transport industry award for the initiative. But much more importantly, it's seen a 24% increase in bus use in Taunton since the £1 fare was introduced. Now, Councillor Mike Rigby remains very ambitious, and using the Bus It campaign and based on the ongoing £2 and £1 fare, he anticipates that we will continue to see, and he expects to see, and feels we should be doing even better with that increase. He's very hopeful the increase will continue to grow, and significantly, and we hope so too. Also using that money, we've seen nighttime buses, absolutely essential, because so few people work from 9 to 5. Nighttime buses make bus travel much more of an option for a lot of other people who work in town centres and need to get back to the suburbs of those towns or to nearby villages or adjacent towns. And so there are now nighttime buses from Taunton to Minehead to Bridgewater to Wellington and to Chard. A major initiative. There's one major omission so far, something we keep on campaigning for, which is the Taunton to Yeovil service of 54. It is now a through service again. It wasn't initially, but we campaign for it to be a through service. We have some very powerful campaigners down in the Yeovil area. And it is now a through service, but it isn't yet a nighttime service. But there is a recognition at Somerset that that's the next one on the list. But Somerset did, a few months ago, decide to support the bus service, the evening bus service connecting Frome and its nearby villages with Bath. As I happen to live in that part of Somerset, I know just how vital that is. An enormous number of people both go and have a night out in Bath, but more importantly, work or study at the universities and colleges in Bath and need nighttime travel. So a very welcome initiative from Somerset. And the bus companies can give payback. First, we're so pleased with the impact of the increased travel on the D2, D2X. They thought they could go further. That's the Bath to Frome service. And they actually gave everybody up there a free day's travel on the 1st of June. The buses were absolutely rammed, but it was all done in a great spirit and everybody really, really enjoyed it. And I was talking to their operations director the other day, and he's very pleased with the way the route is going. So lots of good news, and there's more good news. Mobility hubs. We used to call them bus stations, but they're now called mobility hubs in Taunton and in Somerton. The 126, well, we hear very encouraging news. This is the Wells to Weston-super-Mare service. Well, it ought to be going through to Weston-super-Mare, but for the best part of the past year, it's not gone as far as Weston-super-Mare. But now North Somerset, we understand, has decided to fund the extension of that route through their area. It's not a Somerset Council area all the way. As far as Axbridge, it's been running, which is the service funded by Somerset Council. But we understand North Somerset is going to fund the element which will take that bus through to Weston. Our bus user group in Wales has been campaigned so hard for that, and we're very hopeful that that will happen as from September. Not certain, but we're very hopeful. And we're working a lot more closely with the rail companies. Somerset Bus Partnership is now developing a very useful working relationship with GWR and SWR, South Western Railways. Tanya Rees and Lynn Snelling have had meetings with them in Yeovil, looking at bus connections to the rail heads in Yeovil. We've had meetings in Taunton and in Bridgewater, because the bus rail connection is very important, and we want to see it further extended and to link bus rail routes very visibly as being bus rail routes with the badging of those buses. And there is to be a demand, a digital demand response transport trial introduced in Somerton. Again, an important initiative, a very welcome initiative. So a lot of good news, but it's not all good news, unfortunately. Probably worst of all is all the last minute disruptions to our bus services. Now, it's bad enough for anyone to be stuck at a bus stop and to discover that their bus isn't going to arrive. But if you haven't got a mobile phone and you're stuck at a bus stop, you won't be able to access any information as to whether your bus will arrive. And a very significant number of bus passengers, regular bus passengers, do not have mobile phones or do not use Twitter, which the bus companies choose to announce most of their cancellations. And so they are stuck there waiting for a bus, which is like waiting for Godot. It's never going to come, and they're not going to know that. And at the beginning of this year, there were far too many cancellations, particularly in Taunton, but also in Bridgewater and in Yeovil, to the extent that Councillor Mike Rigby wrote an open letter to First South to complain about the number of cancellations. That did see a significant improvement, and we were hoping it was a trend which would be maintained. But all the feedback we're getting from our bus groups, particularly in Taunton and elsewhere in the south, is that the service has gotten very remarkably worse. There are an enormous number, an unacceptably number of bus cancellations. And even if you've got mobile phones and you can access it, it's still deeply frustrating, and worse than that, to discover that the bus you're relying on to get you to work or get you back from work isn't running for whatever reason. And there does seem to be endemic problems at First South which do need to be addressed, and we will be raising this yet again with Somerset Council, and we are having conversations with First South too about this. The other big disruption, particularly for the people in Yeovil, whether they travel by bus or by car or by any other means, is that the Yeovil refresh has been a huge disruption. Now, roadworks are a problem for bus users anywhere, and for bus operators. It causes them a lot of problems as well, having to reschedule their buses and divert around roadworks, many of which are done at relatively short notice because they're described as emergency. But the sheer scale of the Yeovil refresh, the lack of information given to bus passengers, the lack of information at bus stops. In fact, Linda Snelling, who heads up our Yeovil bus user group, has personally put up notices all over Yeovil warning bus passengers about the disruptions, telling them where they can get their buses from. And that should have been done by the contractor, or ensured that it was done by Somerset Council. So those bus disruptions are unacceptable. The bus cancellations are unacceptable. And they are working against all the good work that the £2 and the £1 fare has been doing. That is why those are real priorities which need to get addressed, and get addressed quickly. And another thing which needs to be addressed, because this is the budgetary period, if we've got unitary councillors on this call, I would remind them of the pledge they made to see an increase in buses, increase in budget for buses. This is now the time for pressing for that. Despite all the other demands on the budget, we do need to see a greater amount of money being spent on buses in Somerset. And the other thing is electric buses. When is Somerset going to get some electric buses? We have a climate emergency. Somerset has declared one. I think nearly all, if not all, our town councils have declared one. So have our parish councils. Well, part of that climate emergency is getting people onto more sustainable means of travel. Yes, that's buses in general, but if those buses are electric powered, even better. There is a Wiltshire and Somerset bus partnership, which we work alongside, which is doing a lot of really important work on this front. And one of the initiatives is to introduce an electric bus service into Frome, something we're trying to encourage Somerset Council to do. It would be an important first step. Now, a lot of the spade work, most of the spade work, in fact, in Somerset is done by the bus groups. We've got round about a dozen bus groups in Somerset. The longest established one is the one I've worked with for the best part of 10 years. But since the formation of Somerset Bus Partnership, we've seen new bus groups set up in Yeovil, in Bridgewater, Wells, Taunton, Wellington, Glastonbury, Cheddar and Chard. And these have all been very active groups, run by local people, doing a lot of hard work with the local town councils in many cases, and putting out useful information to bus users about the local buses. We are huge admirers of the bus groups. They do a lot of very hard grafting to try and promote the use of buses. And no more was that grafting done, but during this month with Better Transport Week and the great big Green Week, I think we had more than a dozen events and stalls, possibly as many as 20 across Somerset during that past week. One of them was in Yeovil. We mention Yeovil quite a lot, but an awful lot of activity has been going in Yeovil. This particular event was good because it attracted Marcus Fish, perhaps not best known for his interest in buses, but he came and he talked to the bus campaigners. He heard the case for the need to prioritise buses in Yeovil, as did many of the unitary councillors who came, as well as the town councillors from Yeovil Town Council, and a lot of bus passengers. We were at Tesco, so we saw a lot of people there. And also in the south of Somerset, I went down with Tony Rees and Tim Andrews to the Green Scythe Fair. And here we are in one of the dozen or more bus stalls that were set up over the past 10 days. And we've got another event, big event coming in September. It's Catch the Bus Month. Now, it all used to be green hands. It's now red hands. We've got lots of red hands. We've got a good few green hands. But most of all, we want you to use those and set up bus stalls in your towns, in your villages. We will help you with material and with displays. But we want to get the message out that buses are something of importance today. They're relevant to ordinary people. We need to get more people onto buses, because the best way of ensuring bus services is to get more people travelling by buses. And buses need you. These are some of the things you might consider doing in your local area. You could feed back to us on local bus issues. You could feed back to your local unitary councillor and your local councillors, but particularly your unitary councillors. They are the people who control the bus budgets. If there is an issue about your local buses, it's often an issue which can be addressed by money. So raise it with your unitary councillor. You could ensure at the bus stops that the latest bus timetable is on display. Now, sadly, a lot of bus operators don't display the bus timetable. Even worse, some of them leave old, out-of-date bus timetables up. You can print them off the internet. You can take some sellotape and stick them up onto bus stops, and it can mean that somebody can discover what the time of the bus is if they haven't got access to the internet. You could put the local bus timetables on your council website. Many of you will be parish and town councillors. it's really important and very easy to do to just put all your local bus times up on your website, making sure that they are the latest ones, the most up-to-date ones. You could post on your local Facebook pages. Facebook has an enormous reach. It's very targeted. It doesn't take a lot of effort to put a Facebook post up. You could put an article about buses in your parish magazine. Parish magazines are always looking for content, and buses are something that they very often write about. From the Somerset Bus Partnership, quite often we send out information to parish newspapers and magazines, and it does get very widely adopted and used. Finally, you can join with us, make contact us, ring us, call us, send us an email, WhatsApp us, Facebook Messenger us, whatever means you wish. If you'd like to run a bus stall, and we'll talk to you and we'll come and help you. We're always very willing, incidentally, to come and talk at any town or parish council meeting. Finally, Somerset Bus Partnership is in need of help, administrative help, creative help, any sort of help. So if what you've heard today is of interest to you and you'd like to get involved with us, then please do make contact. We'd very much like to talk to you and involve you. So what I'm now going to do is hand over to one of our bus user groups. I'm going to start with the one in Wells, and if Rosa Kell is ready, the floor is yours, Rosa, or at least you're most welcome to share your screen if you wish to, or just talk if you'd rather.
I'm happy to share
Okay.
the photos. Yes, I'll do photos. Hi, everyone. Good evening. I have a couple of slides I would like to show you. If I know this is silly, I'll do that after I've done my speech. My name is Rosa Kell. I live here in Wells. I'm a partial disabled bus user. I can't access the bus very often, because it's the 1-6 to Weston and back to Wells, which we've had a problem with. Peter's stolen the whole of my little speech, but I'll go through it anyway. We in Wells call ourselves the Wells Bug. BUG, Bus Users Group, but more important, bugs, because I think we've got to become thorns in the sides of our councillors. We've got to get into our unitary councillors. We've got to make sure that we get onto their meetings agendas. We've got to make sure that buses stay high, a priority order. Rural buses are so important. I helped in Shepton Mallet at a stall which was held on College Park opening day. I've helped set up 2 stalls here in Wells, one on Wednesday the 14th, the other one on Saturday the 17th. All the stalls were inundated by people complaining about rural buses. They start too late in the morning, they finish too early in the evening. People want to be able to go by bus, but they need a reliable service. We need to keep the pressure on to make sure that what we have is there, it's improved for the future. Please help out, share the word, collate, collect bus champions. We need them in every community. Here in Wells, I've reached out to the councillors surrounding the city of Wells, St Cuthbert out, Shepton Mallet, obviously Cheddar, and the Wedmore, and the in-between bit all the way up to Oak Hill and further afield. In Wells, we have a bus station which is underused by passengers. We have a wonderful connection, Bristol, Bath, Yeovil, Bridgewater, and hopefully, fingers crossed, back the 126 to Weston. Peter has already intimated that we think North Somerset has come up with the money, and they are going to be joining Somerset Unitary Council, whom we thank very much for the last 6 months, supporting completely that bus to Axbridge. But we want, and hopefully we will soon get, an announcement to say that the full route back to Weston is going to be reopened. It would have been nice to have it through the summer, but never mind, we're going to have it and people will be able to use it again. College kids will be able to go to the Western College and know that they've got a whole year and without disruptions, which is what they've had over the last year, many of whom had to give up their college courses or whatever. I'm here and I'm willing to help anyone who wants to set up a stall in September for the bus month. I have a gazebo. I have lots of equipment that can be used, A-frames for displays of purposes or whatever, which I'm very glad to loan out to people and help them set up their stalls. I'm doing the best I can for Wells because it's important. It's a city, it's a proper hub where people can transfer from one bus to another, and we just need to improve it. And that's all I've got to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rosie. And I think if we had a lot of people from Wells on the line, they would be thanking you too, because you've been campaigning very long and hard, as has the next person I've going to go to, who I've already mentioned on a few occasions, possibly the most high profile of all our campaigners, Linda Snelling. Linda, over to you to talk about Yeovil.
Hello, where do I begin? Yeah, it's been a crazy year. I started in May when the first lot of cuts or major cuts were happening in Yeovil. Since then, I have been trying my hardest to improve Yeovil town and their bus services, and also the local surrounding areas. The 54 had been split journey, and we also lost a major bus service in Yeovil, which was the 53, which served 2 major areas of the town. In January this year, we managed to get back the 54 direct, although being 2 hourly, but also the 54 direct came through some of the area that the 53 used to serve, which was quite a positive move. Also, I've been trying to tackle the antisocial behaviour down at the bus station. We have a bus station, we have quite a huge bus station, but it was very much underused and neglected. And it needed a lot of TLC. I'm still plodding away at trying to improve it, but I've managed to get the lighting fixed, which hadn't been working for 7 years. I've managed to get the paint work for the buses and the bays sorted, rails, the railings. I'm also trying to get an information centre into the bus station waiting room, and I'm waiting upon the council to install some timetable timetable holders for the walls, and also a notice board. I have also, since all of this, the refresh has come and sent me some more challenges by closing the borough, which meant that we had a major diversion in Yeovil, and we still do, which meant then we had to use Court Ash, which has been an ongoing trial because cars are still parking in the bus stop, which is causing issues. However, I managed to get some chairs, or benches, I should say, so that passengers could sit down and wait for their bus. I have also been in contact with the police and the Yeovil Refresh team to try and sort out the issues with the buses and the parked cars, because it seems to be that the private cars still think that they're able to park in the bus, and it's actually an offence. So that's an ongoing challenge for us. I held a bus stall on Friday just gone. I think, no, was it Friday just gone? The 16th, I should say, that's probably easier, where Marcus Fish came along, but also we had the Lib Dem parliamentary candidate, Adam Dance, who is also very much engaging in buses, because he comes from the South Petherton, which was one of the buses that we almost lost, but has now been saved, although it's gone to 2-hourly service. And we also had Tariff Casey, who is our independent, and he's a great inspiration, and he's plodding along for and fighting for Yeovil itself, in the fact that we need more input in our town, basically, in all areas.
I'm glad this is being recorded, Linda.
Thank you. I'm also working with the town council. I have tried to get a clock put down at the bus station, which is severely lacking, and when bus services run on times and departures, and it's kind of an essential, like as in train stations. So that one I'm trying to push for, and also I'm trying to get in a defibrillator down at the bus station as well, because the nearest one is quite a way up the town itself. I am also engaging in First, with First. In fact, I had a meeting today with Carol Sim, who is one of the she covers the whole of the Southwest. So I've been raising the cancellations to find out what the latest is. Obviously, I also am in how can I put this? I'm also related to the Taunton bus user group as well. And I'm the one that posts all the cancellations that have been happening for First. So I was very eager to find out what the latest was on that. So it was very interesting, and hopefully we'll be having another meeting soon. It would seem that they have just increased their bus drivers from 3 from Slough and a few more from Cornwall to cover the losses, driver losses, and try and sort out some of the cancellations. So that's always a positive, but it will take a sort of a week or two to sort out, because they have to learn the new routes. So that was another thing. I'm just trying to think if there's anything else. I also was able to change the 68 bus rail link to one of the bays in the actual bus station. For a very long time, it has just been a side stop. So I've managed to get it into a bay, which is a bit nicer, so that when passengers, I should say, come in, they can actually arrive in the bus station as they should be, not stuck on the side of a path or something and ticked out, basically.
That's fantastic.
I am also trying to liaise about sorting out some of the routes in Yeovil. One area is Wyndham Park. Now that's an area that lost the bus just around COVID time. And that was also the time that we lost the 53, which was their nearest bus to get in and out of town. Wyndham Park has no shops or anything there. So they have, residents have to come into the town to get their groceries or anything, basically. However, since the cuts, they have actually had no bus service and have had to walk quite a way on the up to a 51 service. So I'm trying to have negotiations with First about trying to get the 51 to be rerouted into Wyndham Park. It is very dependent on the number of buses that and things like that, but it's in the early days. But I know that there is definitely a need. I think we need to address the fact that, yes, we are a town, but in our town is very spread out, and we have over 46,000 residents, and we have very minimal bus services, and there are a lot of pockets of unserved areas.
Thank
And that
you.
was one thing that Marcus Fish also was quite interested in, the fact that there are areas down, for example, Leonardo's, which is one of our biggest employers. They have absolutely no service. And also there is going to be another trading estate appearing in the, let me just think, south west of Yeovil as well. I think there's another one planned. So I think Marcus Fish was very interested to know how we could get something sorted around that area as well.
Thanks,
I think
Linda.
I've said everything. Thank you.
No, I'm sure you could go on a lot more. I mean, it is just indicative of what our bus user groups do, and the sheer range, everything from defibrillators to fighting to get existing routes maintained and new routes put in, and also telling passengers about bus cancellations, which sadly is a major part of what Linda does both in Yeovil and in Taunton. I wish it didn't have to be, but it does. I think possibly at this point, I'll open it up to the whole, I think we've still got 50 people on this call. We've had 60 at one stage, and invite people to comment or to raise issues, or to help us. Annie, you're the first one to have a hand up.
Okay.
Hello, Annie. Could
Hi.
you say who you are? And
Yes, I'm Anne, and I'm from Wellington. And two things completely unconnected. The first is about Somerset Council's responsibility for displays in bus shelters. And my colleague John, I know, has tried to contact Somerset Council about a very badly falling down display board in one of our bus stops. And he told me that it was quite difficult because you have to put a thing on the map and all this kind of thing. Would it be possible for you as SPP centrally to sort of raise with them that this needs to be easy, it needs to be easier to contact them? So it's my thought about these sorts of issues. So I'm thinking, I'm right in thinking it is them that's responsible, just SC that's responsible for bus stops, the displays anyway.
it's not crystal clear. It's something
sure.
we're trying to collect clarification on. Somerset Council does employ one person for the whole of the county, who is responsible for ensuring, amongst other things, that bus information is displayed. But it is a constant theme that we keep on banging on about the lack of clarity as to who is responsible. If it's a commercial route, generally speaking, the bus operator should ensure that they put out the information. If it's a supported route, i.e. subsidised by Somerset Council, then Somerset Council takes on that responsibility. But Tony, I know you've done a lot of work on bus stops. Can you help Anne on this one, or help me even on this one?
I can try. Having taken over as a new unitary authority, their first job, they've said, is to actually work out who is responsible for what. We can help them. We've got lists from the past, but some of those are out of date. So there is, as Peter said, confusion. They're not always sure who is responsible. They have said and made all the right noises that they want to help. They can't do something about all 3,000 bus stops in the county at the same time. They have asked us to let them know that you should be able to report them and you shouldn't be put off. So if somebody has come back and said it's difficult, I think you need to challenge them, and we will challenge them again. As Peter said, there's one fella trying to look after all of them. First have actually said to us, if we know a bus stop and we're willing to find somebody to do something about it, they're happy to pay us to do it. Now, there are people who will say we shouldn't be doing their job for them. But, in the state we're in at the moment, I think if somebody is prepared to do something, then by all means, let's take first up on it. Somerset Council looked at a list we sent in for one bus route, and they've said, we like that idea. We'd like you to do other routes, a route at a time, so that we list all the stops in the route. It doesn't actually achieve very much, because once they get the list, they will go out and look at them again to confirm what we've said, but it does put them in the right area. So we've done it for the 81. We're still trying to do it for the 77. If anybody wants to help and there are bits of the 77 they know, send me a list of the bus stops that are in trouble. As Peter said, we can help ourselves. There are those who say we shouldn't go putting timetables up on bus stops, but perfectly honest, if they need doing and you've got the timetable, put them up. The only point I would make is that if you follow what Peter said and do something on a bus stop, or you do something in your local magazine, or you publish a timetable anywhere, do please watch it. And if it goes out of date, whoever put it up ends up taking on the responsibility of keeping it there. So if you have done some work on putting timetables up, keep watching it. You're local, you know the route, you probably know when it changes. It's probably enough for the moment. I could bore you for another half hour, but
can I just
stop there.
Offer some help, Anne?
David North.
Why don't we look? Why don't we look at the 22 and its route from Wellington and identify all the bus stops in Wellington, and I can help you with that, and we can sort of start to monitor the bus stops within Wellington, Rockwell Green, and out towards Tonedale, and put a plan together so we can go back to the council on. I'm happy to help on that.
The problem really, and you were there, David, so you know
Yes.
what happened.
Yeah.
Is actually physically with the display board.
Yes. Yeah.
Falling apart. It's probably a health and safety hazard now, and that's the problem.
Well, we've also got the town council as well. They probably have some responsibility, but I think if we're clear that I think that the bus shelter in the high streets is probably first responsibility because it's a commercial route, so they probably have the responsibility. But Tony's got the list. If I can check with Tony with I know the particular stop we're talking about, and see if we can find who we believe the responsible person is. It's probably first in this case for that particular stop, and let's see if we can get something done on it.
Okay, thanks. Peter, could I just ask my second question really quickly, which is a completely separate question, and I don't want to take too much time. I just wanted to ask whether SBP, are in talks with, I think it's called Big Lemon, isn't it? The Brighton outfit. Sort of cooperative, because I just thought it was kind of quite interesting that I've noticed that they've now got their own routes in Bristol and Bath, and I was thinking in terms of what you were saying about electrification particularly.
Yeah, no, the Big Lemon brought one of its buses to Frome just over a year ago to demonstrate it. Councillor Mike Rigby attended, and I think that was the first time a Big Lemon bus had been outside of Brighton, but since then Big Lemon has been having conversations with a number of market towns in Wiltshire, but most significantly then got involved with the West of England Combined Authority, and routes were introduced in Bristol, not necessarily operated by electric buses, but there is, I understand, an electric bus operating within Bath and North East Somerset, which falls within the West of England Combined Authority. but there is an electric bus service in operation there. The Big Lemon is very interested in coming to Somerset, expanding, I'm sure, in Bath and North East Somerset and in Wiltshire. But for it to introduce electric buses, it does require longer contractual periods to make it financially worth their while. So often bus contracts are given for 12 months for very good reason, with the cost escalation in bus costs of late. But the Big Lemon has suggested that they would need a 4-year contract, and we'll have to see whether we can persuade Somerset Council to agree to that. But it would be really good to see an electric bus in Somerset. It would be a token step forward, but an important token step, particularly as so many have signed climate emergencies.
Can I just
Yes.
come in there a minute?
Yes.
A couple of things. One, Big Lemon's electric bus, I believe, almost certainly has gone back to Brighton because of charging difficulties. They had to charge it at Beckington Services and use that as an operating centre, so it had to be left out at Beckington to be charged. And the infrastructure for charging, as you say, is hugely expensive. West Midlands have used 6 electric double-deckers on Glastonbury Festival to Bristol shuttles this week, but only 3 can be used at a time because the other 3 have to be charged. So it's not the most cost-effective idea in the world. And the other thing is, you say about the tenders, Big Lemon took on the 84 and 85 in South Gloucestershire, and they have it until the 1st of September. I had the 22 in Bath that finished on March the 29th, and I was told they were going to extend it. On March the 29th, they told me I had to deal with the university to get paid for it. That went on until June the 2nd. They then said that we had a tender, we had the service, they wanted the service to carry on. And I cannot get any details of what I'm actually doing. I have carried it on, but as far as I can see, it's at my expense at the moment, and that can't go on. And there is no, maybe Somerset are better, don't get me wrong, but certainly WECA are in complete disarray when they give out tenders. They extend them for a few weeks at a time, and you have no surety of anything.
Okay, that is Alan Peters, who's a leading independent bus operator, highly regarded bus operator, who mainly operates in the West of England Combined Authority, I believe, Alan, and is always interested in our meetings and very grateful for his attendance. I've got Roger James Ditchett, or that's what it says with their hand up.
I just wanted to raise an issue, really. I mean, it's an old issue, but I'm trying to get it solved, which it never seems to happen. It's basically the issue of a bus point at Castle Carey Station.
Yes.
I've sent a note around to various people. Some people have got it, but Castle Carey Station has put a new bus stop in down there, which is quite grand. But it only serves one of the buses that serve the station. And Southwest Coaches tell me that the number 1 bus, which serves this village and comes through from Shepton down to Yeovil, I think, is too long to go into the safe place. And they still haven't provided a turning circle for the bus to go in there. And currently the bus has to stop on the road, a road outside. If you're going south, it's sort of basically a bit better. You get dumped by the roadside, you can go into the station. But on the other side going north, you theoretically would have to stand in a very thin grass verge right next to the traffic going whizzing by you. And it's just only unacceptable and totally dangerous. So I suppose, I mean, there's various other things I'll raise, but I'll just stick with this one. Is that really getting hold of GWR, who promised, according to Southwest Coaches, last week, when the bus station, the new bus point was put in, the station master phoned Southwest Coaches and said, can you put a timetable in, please? That's the first they'd heard about the new thing being going in there. It was meant to be a turning circle and a roundabout put in there, and it hasn't happened. So it's just a question of our contacts at GWR, cannot we not sort this problem out? Because someone's going to get killed on that road, and it's certainly a disincentive to use the bus.
Roger, the issue of Castle Carey is a long-running one.
I know, it's boring.
No, it isn't boring because it's such a missed opportunity. I mean, you go to so many towns in Somerset which see Castle Carey as being a great potential link if there was a decent bus service to it, and they could then use the rail services from there. And I mean, the services.
I could jump in on this one, perhaps.
Okay, please do. David, if you just explain your background with the rail industry for those who don't know it, because David's an ideal person to comment. David.
Me, yes, yeah, no problem at all. So I previously worked for Network Rail and was the strategic planner for the Southwest, and having a very keen eye on first and last mile connectivity. Having retired, I've joined the Somerset Bus Partnership based here in Taunton, and we have a really good working relationship with GWR. So I know the number one person to contact. So we'll take that up personally and speak with Luke Farley, because we've talked about it before regarding Castle Carey. We had a similar problem with Bridgewater, and that when they built the new bus interchange there, the buses couldn't use it. So I will get back to Luke, Roger, and hopefully that's who you've been speaking to in GWR, because he is the bus rail sort of integration manager for GWR, but a single person covering the whole 3, 4, 5 counties. So there's a lot of work for one person to do. But they are doing amazing jobs, where we've started to see vast improvements in bus connectivity between Linton, Lynmouth and Barnstable, diverted all the buses to the station there. So there are movements, but we've got to work through that. But I will personally take that up with Luke and speak to him regarding Castle Carey, just to understand what is happening, and then we can come back and have a little discussion on it.
I think Robert also wants to make a comment about Castle Carey. Robert, are you available?
Yeah, I thought it'd be a good moment to jump in, because I'm a member of Castle Carey Town Council, and has also managed to set up a transport working group, which is recognised by both Castle Carey Council and Ansford. We have got contacts with GWR, and we want to work very, very hard to promote Castle Carey as something of a transport hub, and improve local bus services. Just to digress a little bit, I'm a bit of a public transport aficionado, and I've been lucky enough to actually travel as far as Albania in the past couple of weeks entirely by public transport. I think it's very, very sad that it's the 21st century, and we're all here, having to convince other people of the necessity of public transport. I think it's absolutely absurd. And we've got Britain, an advanced country, and frankly, our public transport is third world. It should and could be better. And the things I've come up against in trying to, get things moving and improve things in Castle Carey, probably the biggest obstacle is the county council, and I found that extremely disappointing. I really hope that we can all work together to lobby to make things better.
Okay, well, David Northey's heard those comments.
Yeah,
I've heard those comments, as has everybody else on this call. I think Castle Carey, we have to find a way of moving forward.
yeah.
Let's take it on board and see what progress we can make.
I'll be in touch separately, Robert and Roger, then, so you've got my contact details. and then let's see if we can facilitate a discussion directly with Luke and seeing what we can do then.
Just now is a good opportunity to take it, because
Yes.
the station has been cleared to make room for all the Glastonbury buses this week. So there's quite a lot of space there with opening that. Get this new car park open properly and stuff. So it's a good opportunity to take action on this now rather than sort of. Anyway, that's it. Thank you for your help. Yes, we'll see what happens.
Tony.
I copied your email direct to Luke Farley, and I got an automated response. I should have known, because he's told me before. He's on holiday for another couple of weeks, but I'm fairly sure he is in the mood, and DWR are in the mood now to take this up. Somerset County has changed its tune, which we've talked about a lot, and we'll talk about some more. I think there is the feeling that you've expressed it very clearly. The situation is dangerous and a health hazard as it stands. The opportunity is there, and I think, you know, with a bit of pushing, they will do something. Thank you, David, for taking this on. I think, you know, hopefully next time we meet, we'll be able to say something's happening.
Thanks, Tony.
So I have a
Stop
record
laughing.
of everybody's.
Go to a well-known transport campaigner, David Redgewell.
Oh.
Are you there, David?
Yes. I mean, Castle Care is interested because David, the project sponsor manager, is Tom Pearpoint, who I've been in discussions with. The issue is the DFT, our friends at the DFT, and what they've put funds in so far. I mean, there is an access for all bid there as well for the bridge, which we still don't know anything about. And I pushed Peter Hendy about that, sorry, Chairman of Network Rail, last week when I was with him. So I think it's a matter of DFT funding, partly, and who's going to put the funding to do the highways work. Because I've been out on site when I caught the bus in my wheelchair a few weeks ago, and it's dangerous, but it needs Somerset County Council's Transport Authority to work with the department, come up with a solution, because it's beyond the boundary of Network Rail and First Great Western. It's beyond the, I mean, what I don't understand, there should have been a DIA, you'll understand that, David, a diversity impact assessment for that station. We should have identified this to Network Rail and the department when the funds were coming forward. But we are where we are. That would have identified it wasn't safe for passengers to join the #1 bus if that had been done properly. Because it would have had to be made safe for disabled people to use the station, and that means bus row integration has to work safely and taxi integration. So Tom's passed it to Dan Oakey, who is around. And all I can say, David, you may wish to raise it with the regional director at Network Rail as well. This is not a simple first group project. I'm sorry to say that. For those who don't understand first role on the railway, it's a yearly contract renewed by the DFT every year to run South Western Railway and Great Western Railway. That's Great Western Railway, like Buses Somerset, is purely a brand. It doesn't exist. There's no such company, nor is there South Western Railway. There's First Group Great Western Trains Limited, and there's First MTR South Western Trains Limited, or South Western Railways Limited. So that's where we are, I'm afraid, in the world of railways. And of course, there's 10% cuts, if those who don't know it, in the rail network by the department, which is very depressing, which moves removing things like Wi-Fi and catering. We're also asking to look at removing Wi-Fi from buses, something we all need to be very much aware of in the Department for Transport Savings. So that was the point I wanted to make. On bus infrastructure, well, I do work in Gloucestershire, Somerset, Devon and Cornwall. There is no problem with bus infrastructure. Even Bob Driscoll will tell you there is no problem in Dorset. Because it's quite simple. The county council, sorry, I'll get shot for that, Somerset Council, by the 2017 Transport Act, is responsible for bus infrastructure and information displays. Now, other councils have employed staff to do this role. Gloucestershire has man with van, jointly with Stagecoach, and they go out and they maintain every bus stop in the county. Devon do the same. It's an issue we've got to sort out as part of the unitary. We can't have a knit yourself a bus service, put a bus post. I'm sorry, these are professional jobs, professional people, and we need to make sure the county's got officers to do it. Now, one thing I thought as part of the bus service improvement plan, I've just read it, bus service information in Wellington, Bridgewater, Taunton and Minehead are covered by the bus service improvement plan money, and therefore the county is supposed to be sorting it. So perhaps there is money in the budget for DFT for that. So perhaps we need to remind the county at the next bus service improvement plan advisory board of the situation. Yeah, so yeah.
Thanks, David.
Okay, fine. So that's the issue there. The only thing I wanted to also raise was coaches. The new, for those who use National Express, and I've been talking to David today offline, the new timetable come in yesterday. I've put some notes for, there is some improvements, there is more services, and the good news is also there's through ticketing from Wales, Glastonbury and Street to Bristol and onto the National Express network, and also from Taunton and Minehead on the National Express network. And National Express tickets are now valid on Barry's coaches because the Froome service is gone, but you can use the Barry's coaches with National Express. So there's something there, and they are very happy with Megabus, which, believe it or not, is Scottish City Link, partly with Stagecoach, to sit down and talk to this group across the wider Southwest about coach bus integration, especially with, and rail integration, David, especially with the opening of the Taunton bus station hub, interchange, or you want to call it. So I think we should take them up on that. I am still very worried. Alan made a very good point just on the call. Somerset's doing the same. It's extending bus contracts by a few months, as we see from the 126, just like Wecker is. There's no difference. They're all on short-term contract extensions. Even the D2 is. We need to set 4-year bus contracts to get investment in electric buses, high-quality buses, and that's what other councils and combined authorities do. One final point, those who talk about regional government, bus service improvement plans have now been granted to Dorset, to our surrounding councils, Devon, Wecker, more money, North Somerset and Wiltshire, but they have to be coordinated either through Western Gateway Transport Board, which covers Northern Somerset and Dorset. So I try and explain to my great friend Lynn, and also Somerset, which is Peninsula with Devon and Cornwall. And they've got meetings later on this week and next week, but they're the coordination bodies for public transport. One piece of good news, this is the final bit I want to say. For those who are interested,
final bits, David, so this must be.
It's got to be, Peter, there's a regional bus and coach study which people need to get involved in, being run by the regional transport boards. Thank you.
Thank you, David. David's mentioned about having a meeting on coaches, and we plan to do that. That will probably be after the summer break, so we'll be looking at September, but we intend to hold a meeting like this to talk about coach travel in Somerset. Benty, can I come to you, Benty? You're on.
Yes, you can. Yeah. Hello. I just want to say that the situation in Castlecarry railway station, I mean, I work in Wincanton, so I have had to go past there. And for people who normally take the train to go to work, they had to now stop out on the road, be shoveled out and then run for life. And then you had a traffic light as well that stopped the traffic from moving. It was mayhem, and I don't think, to be quite honest, that Michael Eavis has paid anything towards Castlecarry railway station, and they could need some help now. We have had situation in Shepton where the National Health Service are sending old, single people to Yeovil for treatment, and they have argued with them. They had no chance of getting there. But that's not national health problems that they cannot get there. They cannot get home from there. It is absolutely the only place, if you're old and cannot get transport and you need to go to hospital or to one of the units, that is to go to either Bristol or Bath if you can find the bus that takes you up there. And if you don't have to go to Southmead, because then you can only get to the centre of Bristol, and then you've got to try and find some more buses that will take you there. It is appallingly bad. And I have had to take people in my constituency to Yeovil Hospital during these days. I know it's worse because the festival is on, but it shouldn't be like that. There should be some thinking. And I said to National Health Staff, why do you not engage your brain in what is going on? Because it's very simple. There is no buses, people can't go there. People cannot afford, like I did last year, £55 to get home in the middle of the evening from Yeovil Hospital because they said, you can go home now, you're all right. Yeah, I was, and I could go home, but nobody could come and collect me, so I had to take a taxi.
Okay, thank you.
And if you are old and you don't earn money, you cannot find £55. So I think the whole thing has got to be thought thoroughly through because it does not add up anymore.
Okay,
And I'm
you.
sorry to have to say that. And I don't know whose fault it is. It's probably all of us' fault when it comes to it. We have not been alert enough.
Okay, thank you. Tariff, if I can go to you.
Good evening, Peter. How are you?
Fine, thank you.
Good. A couple of things for me. One, just to thank Linda. She is doing an absolutely brilliant job in Yeovil. She's plastered all over social media all the time. You can't get away from her sometimes. But no, she is. She's hounding us councillors, which is what some of our councillors definitely need. And she is really doing a great job. I had a bit of a question about out of hour buses. So I know we've talked about buses between, you know, likes of Yeovil and Taunton, etc., out of hours. But one of the issues Yeovil's got is that we don't have public transport pretty much after 5 o'clock within Yeovil itself, which for a town of our size, for a town that is trying to promote its town centre and evening activities, etc., it's a real struggle because there's no way to get in unless you drive in yourself, and that puts people off, so they don't bother. I just want to know how other people are dealing with that, whether there's any plans to kind of improve what happens in that respect. I guess maybe representatives from Taunton might have a view. I guess they're closest to Yeovil in that respect from, you know, what they're trying to do there.
Okay, I mean, just picking up on that myself, Yeovil is Somerset's second largest town, but if you compare it with the service that the largest town has got, it's like chalk and cheese. It's been the forgotten town, and I think I mean, Linda is putting enormous pressure on, but I think one's got to look to the unitary councillors to apply pressure as well, because they can bend ears and they can influence the budget that buses get. And it is all about money at the end of the day. Money has come from the government, it's been focused on Taunton, and you've got the evening bus services. But bus services in the evenings aren't going to go without funding. And so it's a matter of getting that funding. If it's not in the short term available from the government, then it's got to come from Somerset Council. And the unitary councillors have got to battle for it, I think.
I
think that's a perfect statement, the forgotten town.
Yeah, I totally agree too. I also, that was something that I had on the bus stall, and I asked passengers what they were wanting and looking for in future services. One was Sunday services and bank holidays, and the other was evening services. And I think that both are highly critical in a town to survive, really. We don't have 9 to 5 jobs. There are care workers, hospitals, you know, retail, even retail opens on seven days a week most of the time. And I think there's very much a need in Yeovil, especially to get things moving, to have a bit of a levelling up system, I think, personally.
Yeah. It's a commercial need. I mean, it, you know, you may see a loss to start with, but long term, it's going to improve our town, improve what's happening commercially, you know, from a leisure perspective, etc. But someone's got to bite the bullet and put that investment in.
Tony.
You're absolutely right. When we wrote our Somerset Bus Manifesto and circulated it to councillors. We updated it this year and added in evening services. We didn't add in Sunday services because basically we're trying to do one thing at a time. I would say that when we do next year's update, we should be asking for Sunday services as well. We've already said it many times, but we didn't put it in our plan for this year because simply I think we'd be asking for too much. I talk to people in Yeovil and they say, over the summer, I feel like I'm in a prison. I cannot get to the beach. I cannot go out. I have people, relatives I want to see, and there are just no bus services on Sunday. I think we were right in picking evening services for this year and then picking Sunday services for next year. We've asked for an increase in the local budget, so there should be money available. Yeah, sorry, I'm just looking at the note. Yes, the previous administration did all sorts of horrible things. I'm starting from where we are. I'm listening to the noises that the new unitary authority is saying, and they agree that it is ridiculous that we don't have evening service. And we are starting to say to them, and I'm sure we will get agreement, that not having any Sunday services, and on a bank holiday weekend we lose 2 days altogether. There are just no buses at all for 2 days. Over Easter bank holiday weekend, there are no bus services on Friday, Sunday and Monday. South Somerset particularly is just devoid of buses over those periods, and there are lots of people who would travel. And as you said, we're asking for money to start these services off. My experience is that if you start services off and leave them running for a couple of years until people have noticed them, they can become commercial.
Yeah, I just point out that up here in the north of the county, our Sunday services between Frome and Bath, they've proved so popular that the bus operator added extra services, and these are entirely commercial services because, as Tony says, once you've started the service, then you might well find, as First West of England is finding between Frome and Bath, that they're so popular that we've now got an hourly bus service on a Sunday. Never had that ever in all our time up here. We now have an hourly bus service on a Sunday, and it's commercial. Sue Burgess.
Hi there. I have spoken before in these meetings, and a lot of what you've spoken about this evening doesn't actually have anything to do with us out in the sticks in West Camel. I appreciate that there are lots of problems still going on, and I feel like a cracked record, so I do apologise. But here in West Camel, we have a bus service which is just twice a week on a Wednesday and Thursday, and it only goes to Yeovil and comes back. So while now the conversation has drifted towards Sunday service and late night service, etc., we have still got such a restricted service that I put it out on Facebook that I was attending this meeting, and did anybody have anything to say? And the biggest comment was, well, if we had a bus service, we'd use it. But just going backwards and forwards to Yeovil, you can't arrange appointments for that limited time. You can't go to the dentist or have your eyes tested. So the people just resort to using cars, which is really sad. But I feel that I couldn't set up a stall in West Camel and promote the buses and the reduced fares, etc., when we have such a limited service anyway.
Yep.
I'm not quite sure what to do about that.
I think the thing to watch is the DDRT trial in Somerton. From very rural areas, perhaps demand responsive transport is the only opportunity to get a better service. But it's talking evening and Sunday services, they're just not going to be in any form available. I'm sorry.
No. I did try the demand services last year, actually, after one of our meetings last year, and I rang around 4 or 5 different areas, but we seem to fall in between the cracks, if you like. We're too far away for one area and we're too far away for another area, and then somebody else did come back and say, oh, we can provide a service, it'll be £4.95 a trip into Yeovil, which as pensioners here on Orchard Park here, they get free anyway. So that was a non-starter. So it's everything I tried last year came to an abrupt halt. So I was hoping that somewhere in this meeting tonight we'd talk about connecting the rural areas, but I can see that there's a much bigger problem about having bus services even in towns and cities, let alone in little villages like West Camel. So
we can sympathise. I'm not sure what we can do to help. But, thank you. It's been pointed out, Jevon, that you've had your hand up a long while, and I've not spotted it. Jevon, over to you.
Yes, Jevon from Whitchurch in Bath and North East Somerset. Yes, I've been waiting patiently, like waiting for a bus. Well, after I met in the Shepton stall, I had a nice ride on a nice circuit like usual. Well, one thing was pointed out to me when I rode on the 174 after the meeting up towards Bath. There has been a stop in Midsummer Norton by the Norton Hill School that is currently without a flag on either side of the road, but stops are marked on the road. And when a lady wished to alight, she pointed out, I believe, that facts that are arising in Wales, that for those that don't know, Wales currently have agency drivers on behalf of West England. Now, these are new to the area and are not wary of where we have, for example, anywhere in Somerset, stops that are not marked, that are valid stops. Well, we had this driver on this occasion, and when this passenger alighted, she walked up to the windscreen at the front of the bus and did a kiss, because that driver was so thankful to that lady who alighted. Anyway, going back to stops and other interests, it's been arose on the Facebook group lately, where we have at any stop in the nation, we must be wary if a vehicle parks on a stop, for those that are aware, could a crew change, for example, arise at a stop, or a vehicle mysteriously parked at a stop, blocking. It may be parked in a space sufficient manner, but it may be a part of a bus duty change. This was brought up by myself lately on the Facebook groups. So if you're going to try and do some tell-titting on a stop of a vehicle obstructing a stop, go cautious how you do, as that vehicle, like I say, can be part of the service, and then a crew change arise, you unexpectedly getting embarrassed when you board a service, having taken a picture. Say, for instance, one example we had arise on the group.
Thank you, Jevon. Thank you very much. Yeah, we'll take that point on board. Thank you.
And also,
I think you've made your
circumnavigation as well. We want to rise, like at Castle Carey we've had, around 70 feet is a good size of a circumnavigation, like we've got at Bristol Parkway Station, for instance. And that would be sufficient for example, anything articulated or multiple coaches.
Thank you.
Be a large size. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I said that this meeting would be 45 minutes, just shows you once you talk to people on buses, you can't believe a word they say, because we're well over that now, an hour and a half. But we've had 60 people on the call at the peak. I think that's a good indication that people care about buses in this, I was going to say county, in this council area. And there's a lot to talk about. We will be organising another meeting in September to coincide with Catch the Bus Month. We'd invite all of you to make contact with us and help us with Catch the Bus Month. Linda can't do it all. She'd be delighted to have some help in Yeovil, as would Rosa, as would Martin in Taunton, and David in Taunton, Tony down also in the south of the constituency, Glenn in Bridgewater, and me here in Frome. So make contact, tell us what you might be able to do, and we'll stay in touch and keep you informed on what happens through emails and posts on Facebook. But thank you very much for spending a sunny evening on a Zoom call. I hope it's been worthwhile. Thank you very much indeed.
Peter, it's John Hassel here.
Hello, John. From
I've
the
been
south.
on the call, but
Yep.
I haven't got the means to put a hand up.
Right.
So what I was going to say was we have 3 elections going on at the minute. One's in Shepton Mallet, which is a town council one. There's a unitary council one, and also the parliamentary by-election. There are 8 candidates for the parliamentary, 3 for the town council, that's 11, and I'm not sure how many there are for the county election, but perhaps our manifesto could go out to them.
Yep.
And we can get further support for our causes. There were several other things that I was going to pick up on. Evening service is the most important one, is the 54, I feel. We really ought to have that as soon as possible. But as was said earlier, the evening services were something that we've been trying to do for ages, and it was a start. We picked probably most of the serious routes. There are others that okay, they need an evening service, and the next step is, of course, Sunday services. That is absolutely desperate. And as you know, we've got the diversion on the 28th to go through Norton Fitzwarren and Cotford, and that could very easily be done on a Sunday at the moment. So a word in Mike's ear might help there.
Well, you're a bit closer to Mike's ear than I am, because you live adjacently. So I'm sure you'll keep on making that point to Mike, John.
I don't know whether this £2 business has filtered through, but it is actually £2 to go right through from Watchet through to Ilfracombe on the coaster. If you want to get on and off at various points, it's £12. And
I'll be doing that this week. I'm going to be down in Linton this week, and I plan to do that run. It's a fantastic journey, an unbelievable value for money. So if people haven't done that Exmoor Explorer route, do take it. It's an amazing bus trip. Okay, John, thank you very much for making that point.
The other thing is I have loads of copies of the timetable and the coaster route, and I can provide those if people need them for stalls anywhere.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, well, I'll say good night to you. Thank you again for joining us. I hope it's been worthwhile.
Thank you,
Thank
Peter.
you.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.